Okay, let's have a class. And today we will do a gram stain. So very quick, we want to talk about the principles behind it. Then I'll show you how to do it. Then you go ahead to do it. Okay. So let's review what we talked about in the lecture. Gram stain is a basic differentiate stain. So we could differentiate the bacteria into two different categories, which is gram positive and staining purple, or we say it is blue. And it also have a second category, which is gram negative, staining pink, or we say red. Okay, so we'll see. Put here will be blue and also purple. And in the back, under here will be pink or red. And we said if it is gram stain, the fungi, we all gonna say it is gram stain blue. So that is the basic information. And then we talk about the principles behind that. There is a true theory, which is cell wall theory. The cell wall theory tells you the gram-positive bacteria have a heavy peptidyl glycan, so they can hold on crystal violet during decoloration process. Therefore, it's not washed off, so it is still showed the purple color. And there's a second theory, we call it a lipid theory. The lipid theory is talking about gram-negative bacteria have 10 to 15% lipids compared to gram-positive bacteria may only have about 5% lipids. Because of the high amount of the lipids, so the lipids together with crystal violet will be easily washed off during decoloration. So therefore, we need to put a dye there. So the dye called counter stain, which is saffron. So that's why it is pink color for counter stain. Now, obviously, when we talk about the cell wall theory, the gram-negative bacteria is thin or very thin peptidoglycan. So this is what we talk about in the lecture. Now, because we have a cell wall theory and also a lipid theory, so that require the gram stain culture has to be very fresh, and we also call it young culture. Now, how young it is needs to be about 24 hours. The reason is older culture, the cell wall could be cracking down, so the older culture, very possible they all gonna stain, looks like stain like gram negative. We call it gram variable stand. Okay, so this is our opening remarks for what's the story of the gram stand. Very simple. Now we want to talk about what's the lab work today. So the lab work today is also pretty straightforward. We will do two bacteria culture, which is on the slant, which is E. coli, represented by acronym EC, and Staphylococcus aureus, which is writing SA. Now, obviously, one is gram-positive bacteria, another one is gram-negative bacteria. We just want to find it, what it is. Okay, so how are we going to do it? So we have E. coli, represented as EC, and Staphylococcus aureus, represented as SA. Okay, those are the acronyms. So how are we going to do it? At the beginning, they are the same as we talked about before. We call it smear preparation. So everybody will get a glass slice. If it's in your box, please clean it. Then we're going to draw two big circles. The two big circles this time, we will label at the end, which is EC, E. coli, and SA, Staphylococcus aureus. And then do not forget, this is the first one. Second one, do not forget to flip over. Okay, because we mentioned the dye could be damaged the lens of the microscope. After this, we're going to using a loop to transfer bacteria into circle. Now how to do it? Of course, you're going to first put 1 drop of large water. So you're going to pick the bacteria from the slant to make a smear. So it will be a big smear. Okay, mix it very well. And we talk about this smear has to be thin, not very crowded. If it's very crowded, we have to move to the edge because we want to see the morphology of the bacteria. If it is all a cluster, you cannot figure it out. After we doing this, we're going to go in through, we call it air dry for like 5 minutes, completely air dry, and then we will be put them back and forth on the Bunsen burner. We call it heat fixing. And we mentioned about the heat fixing. The function is to deactivate the enzyme of the bacteria, let them stick onto the slides firmly. Then we move on to the major gram stain procedure. So what are the major gram stain procedure? You should be pretty much very familiar with it. Number one is a purple dye. We call it crystal violet. We will stain 60 seconds. Number two, we're going to add a gram iodine. The gram iodine, we call it a mordant, because they're going to be let the crystal violet stain strong. Then the third step will be a decoloration process. We are using 95% alcohol. To decoloration only 10 seconds. By the way, this gram iodine is only 60 seconds. Now this one is very tricky. You have to do 10 seconds. Otherwise, if it's decoloration too long, the color going to be all gone. Then they all looks like a gram negative. So that's another possibility. You could cause gram variable stain, which is a decoloration too long. Okay, so we tell you all these possibilities right here. Now the last one is the counter stain. We're going to using saffron. It is also going to stain 60 seconds. This is called a counter stain. Now after that, we're going to do the observation. The observation, the same thing, is 10x to find the specimen and then move to 100x with oil immersion, we will see the three important items of a gram stamp. If you still remember, we talked about in the lecture, there are three important information for the gram stamp. Number one, everybody knows, is gram reaction. That is positive or negative. Number two, we want to see the cell morphology. So morphology of cell. And the last one, we want to see the cell arrangement. It could be a single, it could be a diplococ cell, it could be a grape shape, a chain, or a tetrad. Okay? So very simple and straightforward. We talk about the gram stamp, the theory, the procedure, and how we're going to do it. So next, same as before, I want everybody come to the front, and I will show you how to do the gram stamp. Okay, just everybody come here. We're going to do this real quick. I'm still going to borrow this area. We're going to do it. So you have a tray right here, then I will borrow real quick. It is not difficult at all, but because it's a multiple steps for the staining, so you still has to be careful when we do these things. Okay, so I'm gonna pick a glass slice right here. You can use your own, which is in your glass box. And we usually carry 2 slants. Okay, I'm just gonna borrow one from here, and then love to have a Sharpie marker and the faucets. First thing first, please do not damage the slant. Be very careful. You only need a tiny pick, you'll get the bacteria, because we have 4 labs to go. And otherwise, the last lab will see all these slants are horrible. So very gentle to pick the bacteria. That's first thing. Okay. Like we did it before, we're going to label. So you have a glass slides, you're going to do the label. The label, we're going to draw 2 large circles. On the side, we're going to write EC and SA. And then don't forget about the very important step is to flip it over. Okay. Now at this moment, I would like you to check this water is working. And then also this Bunsen burner is working. Where's the hockey stick? Thank you. A little bit of space. Good. This one seems like doesn't work very well. I'll maybe use this one. Okay. Before we do, make sure this is very